All right. Recording time. Can confirm, not muted. Okay, so yeah, Stewie's still on leave, slacker. Just got back from a little holiday myself and just quickly jumped in to do some laps. So still more in it, but yeah, laps not too bad, 31.5. Definitely room for improvement in it, but the basics of this track are pretty simple. So don't need to go faster to do a video to sort of indicate how to get around it fairly well. Now this setup is pretty hairy, to be honest with you. Feel like it's a wet weather setup. Hopefully we get a fair bit of wet. Otherwise, it's going to really use the tyre up. It's got a lot of point, but certainly initial on throttle application, there's not a lot of rear grip. So yeah, it's a bit of an interesting setup this week. But like I said, I do feel like it's tailored. I haven't looked at it in detail, but I do feel like it's tailored a little bit more towards, a wet weather setup. I mean, it is called Redbull wet, but yeah, normally you don't. Yeah, anyway, but it's not a bad dock at all. It's just very different for this type of track. So yeah, but yeah, we'll do what we normally do. I'll play an onboard, and then we'll talk through the lap, and yeah, we'll go from there. So enjoy. So 31.55, plenty of little errors on this lap, which, to be honest, I don't mind errors because it's, yeah, shows what to do and what not to do. But yeah, tidy-ish lap, but like I said, a couple of apexes were well and truly denied. But anyway, so you will know, so it says, modified from vet to doc. So gone a little bit different on the bias. I haven't found anything yet that I'm happy with. But yeah, a little bit different on the bias, and you can see on throttle map 6 there. Throttle map 4 is standard, and I think the bias was like 63.8 or something like that as standard. But yeah, so that's all that's modified on it. And yeah, but we'll roll through here. It's obviously up into turn 1. The important part about the Red Bull track is it's all about exits. Yeah, you got to carry momentum in, but it really is about how quickly you can get on the throttle and get the car off the corner. Just because everything's just long straights. How do I turn that off? I thought when you muted people that it stopped showing that. I don't know. Who cares? Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, into turn 1. 150 board is pretty much my brake marker at the moment. 95 Sim Sport sponsored by Gary Buckland. Yeah, so 150 board, uphill braking. Not sure what the cylinders are actually in this setup. Haven't looked. 2021, so pretty standardish for what we've been running. But yeah, nice and square with the car. You can use a bit of this ripple strip area. Don't want to be in here. If you've got the car braking fully on the black surface, you're just too narrow on entry up here, which just hurts your exit. So yeah, you want to use as much as you can here before you get to an off track, which is basically right side tyres to the white line. So definitely use as much as you can. You're down to third gear here. Because it is uphill braking, the car stops pretty quick. So you can get the shift done a little quicker here to help you scrub some speed off. But yeah, you just want to, at the same time, be nice and smooth. Pretty big pedal application into here. Down to third. And you want to start, you want to attack the curb pretty well, but you don't want to turn the car in too early because it is going to push you out a bit wide. So on this lap, I was actually a tenth and a half down on what my PB is in this section on the way in to the corner, but on the exit was much better. So I gained most of that back down the straight. So this gives you a bit of an idea of if you try and push too fast in, you are going to hurt off. So yeah, so down to third gear, sixth gear, down to third. And you can see you can get over this sausage a bit, but you don't want to stay out there too long because you will off track up here. But yeah, you can't use too much. I'm not exactly sure what the limit is, to be honest with you. Perhaps it's right side tyres to the edge of the curb here. Not entirely sure, but you can see there's a bit of roll time here. So get the car rotated in nicely, a little bit of trail brake on the way in just to keep weight on the nose, and then bang, pick up the throttle as you approach the curve. So it's pretty much bang on where you want to be. You can use a little more than that, but there's not much wrong with what went on there. And you can see, get the steering wheel back nice and straight as early as you can and start feeding the throttle in as early as you can. It does take a fair bit of throttle. The sausage, it will fire up into wheel spin if you're not careful. But yeah, the way that got over there was pretty much how you'd want it. And you can see I don't try and force the car back onto the racetrack. Right on the edge of the ripple strip to the end of the curb and then back on. So no off track with that. Okay, so you don't need to try and keep the car in here. And like I said, on the way in, you don't want to be in here. You can just see how much that will hurt your exit, how much that'll hurt you run down the straight. So pick up the throttle, hard on the throttle. Again, hit your gears. No rev limiter stuff. You see, the exit was really strong, so it got got to sixth gear fairly early. When you don't get that right, you're sort of getting sixth gear up here. So it does make a difference getting off that corner well. Now again, get over and use this. Okay, you can brake in here. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, it just tightens it up, and it might look good on the relative. What you'll start to find is when you've set a PB, all of a sudden your relative looks crap on the way into the corner, but it's really good on the way out, and you've just got to find that balance. Once you reset a new PB, it'll all come back together. But obviously, if you're in here and you turn in early, it's going to look quicker on the relative on your screen, but you're going to hurt on exit. So just think about that. Sacrifice a bit of entry to gain the exit. But yeah, definitely. So braking again is around about that 150 board. Don't get suckered into braking too deep here, especially in a slipstream. Even though it is slightly uphill, you've got to slow the car down so much to get the car turned in. So yeah, slipstream has a pretty big effect on how well you can stop the car in here. So just keep that in mind. But again, so braking the car nice and straight, get the car over onto the green, and just sort of get your inside tyre on the edge of that white line as you're coming in. You sort of get past, probably up around here is where you want to start turning the car in. So let's see how close that is. Bang, there you go. So again, you don't want to pitch the car in early because it's going to make it really tight on exit. So you want to try and use as much of a wider entry as you can to focus on getting the exits. Now in the race, obviously that leaves you susceptible to a pass, but you can almost not defend this corner depending how aggressive the person is on the inside. If you can run around the outside here and get on the throttle and get off the corner well, you'll eat them into the next corner every time. You'll just have better exit drive. You'll have more speed out of the corner. So just think about that when you're racing someone, that yeah, you can defend like hell, but chances are if they're on the outside, they're going to probably out drag you down the next straight. So, yeah, just food for thought. But yeah, get in nice. Now I did slightly miss the apex there, so you want to be a little bit tighter. But again, it shows this track you can run a slightly NASCAR-ish, a slightly wider line, and focus on getting nice smooth throttle and getting off the corner. So, and that's here. So second gear, if you listen to the downshifts, same as Mexico, just 1, 2, 3, 4, just sort of counting them down. So just not rushing them, nice and smooth. Second gear out of there. And you got to be with this set. You got to be very. You want to get your steering done so nice and. It's a bit of a weird one. If you're trying to turn the car and get on the throttle late, this thing will just snap sideways on you. So you really want to carry the momentum in and get the steering lock off the car as it starts to come out of the corner, so you can get on the throttle nice and square and drive it off. If you're sort of here still trying to put a ton of lock into it, and by a ton I mean more than what's there, like really turning the car, and you're trying to pick up the throttle, it's just going to, on this little transition here, with you go from uphill on camber to off camber downhill, the car will just get really light in the rear and want to come around. So just keep that in the back of your head. So you can see it takes until there to get back to full throttle. So it's a long way out of the corner. If you think about turn 1, it's far further out of the corner, but it is that weight coming off the rear. You've got to be a little bit more gentle with it. So run down the hill. I'll try and shorten up everything you can. So short and short. Now I go to 6th. Gearing's a bit in between. You could run the limiter into here potentially as the tyres wear. You don't get a better exit. But look, I'm going to 6th gear and then down to, on this lap, I'm down to 3rd gear. I'm torn between 3rd and 2nd. So I'll put a disclaimer against that. But you can see here, this is the trickiest brake zone on the track. Downhill, for some reason the car doesn't feel like it's stopping very well. I don't know if it's just I've been on the terps for 3 days and haven't figured it out. But yeah, it's just not stopping particularly well down the hill for me. So 2nd gear is probably a better option, and then maybe an early upshift to 3rd on the way out. But this one was 3rd, and you can see I don't stop the car well enough. It runs a bit wide to apex. But again, it's the type of track where you can get away with that here. You can run a bit wider, but ideally, you want to be quite narrow and onto the curb here. But 6th gear, down to 3rd. Again, pop, pop, pop. You can see just, yeah, get a apex. So yeah, not ideal. Somehow it still generated a good lap time. But yeah, really you want to be in here, getting on the curb, because you can see turning. It's just forever turning. Now the only thing I think saved me is because it was 3rd gear. I could get back on the throttle really early, even though I still had a fair bit of turning to do because it's just low in the RPM. 2nd gear, the thing would have been just frying them. So definitely, I'll show you another lap in a second. But yeah, you definitely want to get the car in on the curb. But I'll show you that on another lap. So 3rd on the exit, sit out a little bit wider. You don't want to be in too narrow because again, it'll get a bit lively in the rear of the car. But yeah, certainly in up to 4th. Use a fair bit here. This is where the car's a bit funny. For me, it's understeer if you don't get this quite right, and it's oversteer if you don't get this quite right. There's a very small window. But yeah, you definitely 4th gear on the limiter, down to 3rd. You see, you want to get in, and again, see the push in the front of it. It's just something's. I'll show you another lap where it's a lot nicer. But 3rd gear, so brake marker is pretty much the 100 board. Just past the 100 board. Down to 3rd there. It's a pretty crap blip and clutch match. But yeah, so trail, and you want to get it right up onto the curb here. Just the more you can get the left side onto the curb here, it really rotates the car for you. So it's a big bonus. But yeah, I was just slightly off where I'd want to be. Good throttle percentage still though. The car rotates. It has a little bit of a slide there, which just helps me get back to the throttle. So that was a positive. Down the hill here, third gear. So on the limiter. And then braking sort of just towards the end of the curb here. Third gear through this next section. And again, it's the same concept. So a good amount of brake, plenty of trail, and sort of get the car in on the nose and up on the curb. Again, so you can see back on the throttle very early there. Once the car's on the curb, it'll rotate. And you know that then you can get the thing off nice and square. So third gear, again, hard on the throttle and use all of the exit here. So you can get right up over the curb. No dramas at all. Just dancing in the rear a bit. And then up through the gears. Use all the exit over the other side. And we come into the last section. So again, this is a little bit of a tricky one. And there's a fair bit of, you can use a fair bit of track here as well. So 100 board is me braking a little bit early on this one actually. How soft was that? That's why, because I use fourth gear. So cockpit, fourth gear. Yeah, so on this lap I use fourth, which I think it works. You could use third and brake a bit deeper. And use the engine RPM to slow down. But again, this gearing is right in the middle. It's not quite comfy. Third gear feels like it slows the car up too much. So that's personal preference, what you want to do. You can brake a bit deeper, use third gear and carry more engine RPM through. Fourth gear, you need to probably brake a little bit earlier because it'll have a little bit more understeer in the car. So that may hurt the car as the race goes on as well. So again, a disclaimer, it's a bit like turn 3. Think about whether you use third or second there. But anyway, on this lap, used fourth. And again, you want to get it up onto the curb. I didn't quite get it there, but up onto the curb. And on exit, you can use more than you realise. You can really sort of float the car out. You just don't want to be, that's kind of the limit. Yeah, that's right on the edge of the limit, I think. I think it is any tyre on the other side of the white line. So yeah, just food for thought. Keep them on the white side, but yeah, you can use a fair bit here, which is good to know. Down to third, and then again, you want to pitch the car in. So brake wise, it's a decent little brake application down the hill. You want to pitch the car in, but you can't use too much here. But you certainly want to get the car up over the sausage, so that you can, the car will just rotate nicely there. So there is an off track if you use too much of that. But yeah, nice flow on the throttle, fairly hard and early, and then flow the car out again. So you can use a fair bit here without getting into too much strife. I think, again, I don't know where the track limit lies here, but certainly you can't be too much further out because it will off track. And then just hard on the throttle and pop your gears. So I caught grass there, but no off track. So that's kind of a lap of Red Bull. What I will do is just quickly show you. It wasn't far off this time. It's actually, for me, it's a tidier lap, but it's a slightly slower lap. So this is a 31.63 lap. So again, pretty similar on exit there, a little bit of a wobble. Very different track conditions on this, full cloud cover. So a little bit tighter on the curb, but you can see that actually hurt my exit. So I was talking about before, and sorry to do two comparisons, but this track's kind of important to do two comparisons. So this was cleaner. I got the car into the apex better, and I felt I got better exit drive, but it was actually like 800 slower down the straight because I was too tidy. If you remember the previous lap, the car was probably half a car maybe a quarter, half a car wider. We just missed the apex, but it enabled me to get on the throttle a little bit nicer. So you can see that's where I'm at full throttle. Whereas the previous lap, I was actually full throttle here. So that's just some of the subtle differences as to, and it can depend on how you drive the car. So you may prefer that wider line in, harder drive off versus narrow entry, try to drive off. So think about that. They're just down into here quickly. So I did go to second on this lap. Second gear. And you can see it's just a little bit tighter on the, still probably not where I want it to be, but anyway, it's a little bit tighter on the curb. But again, tighter on the curb, second gear, it takes you a little bit longer to get back on the throttle. Now, it was quicker in second gear on this lap. So at this point, I think it was about 10th and a half up on the 5, but then the next parts of the lap, it all went to custard. But anyway, so that's just a bit of a, I guess, snapshot on what Red Bull's about. Now, obviously, the talk is that there will be weather. There ain't any rain in this server at this point. Looking at the server setups, it looks like there's meant to be a bit of rain towards the back end of the server, so I assume that's what is going to get replicated for the race. We'll wait and see. Hopefully it does rain. But yeah, realistically, this track is just about nice, smooth driving, looking after the tyre, not sliding the car too much. Yeah, definitely, yeah, being nice and patient with it everywhere you can. Brake the car straight. Very similar to Mexico in a few spots. It's a high-speed track, so as you can see into here, it's just brake the car straight. No wheel work, no turning left or right, just straight. Down into turn 3 is the same thing. Get the car in tight, as you can see there, and then open up this next bit. So when you come into it, you're braking straight. You're not braking on a turn back to anything. Straight. It's the best way, making sure you don't lock tyres, and you can maximise your brake pressure that way as well. So, but yeah, should be an interesting race. Obviously missed last week, but that's okay. It was Wayne got the win. It was great to see Dean get a podium and Jordan with another one as well. So championship's hotting up. Should be fun. And yeah, wish everyone the best of luck this week. Watch the exit of turn 1 on the starts and the entry, to be frank, because everyone loves throwing freaking 5 wide at turn 1 at Red Bull for some reason. So yeah, just level heads and hopefully you come out the other side. But anyway, that was yeah, a Red Bull run. Stewie's back next week, so you can have him. But yeah, hopefully it's helpful, and I do appreciate the messages, and a few people sent some messages asking for some hints and tips as well. So if you got any questions, you want to ask anything, just send me a message. Happy to have a chat. Alrighty, cheers.